Welcome to another episode of MondAI BAIgel. Joining us is Tom Martin, CEO and founder of LawDroid. Tom is a trailblazer in the legal tech space, empowering law firms to work smarter with AI agents. He's an author, coder, and lawyer. Thomas, welcome to MondAI BAIgel. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, Mia. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to discuss AI. It's on everybody's mind.
LawDroid has been at forefront of integrating AI agents in the legal industry. Could you start by explaining what AI agents are and how they can be utilized in the legal world?
Yeah, happy to. So my company LawDroid, we have a platform where we make it super simple and intuitive to create your own AI agents, and they're different than chatbots. So people are, I think, by now, pretty familiar with chatbots. When we started out 8 years ago, people were not familiar with chatbots, but over time, they've learned that they break easily. You ask them a question that it's not prepared for, and it says, well, what about that? Can you explain a little more? What about that? And it just kind of breaks. AI agents are much more durable, and they come from a combination of giving it knowledge, giving it intelligence through a foundation model like OpenAI, giving it tools that it could use if something comes up, and giving it goals. And so when you put those four things together, you can create an AI agent that you could put out in the world to accomplish that goal, and it will do its best to continuously operate to accomplish that goal. So it's autonomous, it's durable in that it's not brittle like a chatbot, and it's more of what we want, really, from AI. For so long it's been a year and a half, but with ChatGPT, it's been more of a co-pilot, right? You ask it to do something, it does that. You ask it to do something, it does that. And that ties you down to a one-to-one relationship where you're asking for something and getting it back. You have to be there. But with an agent, you can give it the goal, and you could have many of them working at the same time. So that's how it's different. There's a lot that it could accomplish within the legal industry. It could work to speak directly to clients and provide them with updates and communication about their case. It could also work on the business end for helping you to get clients, to have that initial sales conversation. And it would be a much more robust conversation with more information. And if somebody asks it a question it doesn't expect, it can recover and keep going. So there's many applications for communicating with clients. And at least in the United States, the number one bar complaint that lawyers get is that they've failed to communicate with their clients properly or adequately. And so it could really help to fill that gap. And that's just one use case.
Your work with AI agents involves a lot of automation of repetitive tasks. But do you believe that tasks that require thinking and feeling may include AI agents? Can they be used in such the cases?
They actually can be, and even now. Right now it's kind of like the bleeding edge, but it can be now. For example, there's an AI that is called Hume AI, and unlike other, it's a voice AI. That's kind of its niche, is that it allows you to interact with voice in an emotional way. Okay, what does that mean? So up until now, and we've actually used this type of voice where you can essentially mimic emotion, because it's possible to put what's called SSML tags within the script that you give a voice agent. And so you could tell it, like, you tag it as happy, and then it will kind of lift its voice and be happier. And you could have this kind of mimicry of emotion that's scripted. Hume makes it different because that's happening automatically, but it's also happening in reaction to the speaker's voice. So if the person that is talking to this AI is sad, Hume knows that. And Hume knows how to respond and maybe be more empathetic, or to be more understanding, to give the person more time to explain themselves. So it's already doing this. And that service is available through an API. We're actually testing it for how to implement it, probably in very unique circumstances where you have an interaction with an actual end user client for limited situations, not full legal representation, but maybe just for gathering information, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that ability to meet people where they're at emotionally is a huge win, and it's one that's going to become more commonplace.
It seems awesome. But considering the legal industry's traditional nature, how have law firms responded to the introduction of AI agents? Have you faced any challenges when you address them? Do you address them at all, or is it a separate like legal tech branch and other customers?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking to the, speaking to the choir, all the people that are on board with AI, of course, people are very excited to experiment with it. But I would say that the legal industry at large, like law firms at large, there's a tiny fraction of them that are even thinking of experimenting with AI agents. Um, I think that they perceive it as being of greater risk than just normal generative AI, because the idea that something can autonomously be undertaking some task or goal seems riskier when they are already concerned about hallucinations and they have this overreaction to that. Um, so naturally, law firms are a bit, hesitant and conservative about it. However, there are some, very large leading law firms like Wilson Sonsini. David Wang actually spoke. He keynoted the first day at Legal Innovators California, and he was talking about how they've already created an AI agent internally at Wilson Sonsini that's doing work for them. And of course, you know, it's a very large law firm. They're also very, concerned about inaccuracy and concerned about uh, autonomous action, and they have protocols in place to make it reviewable, explainable, and to have control over the entire process. So there are ways of doing it responsibly. But just as chatbots were brand new in 2016, AI agents are new in 2024, and we have to get used to things first.
So when we talk about AI hallucinations, about AI generating nonsensical information, but also information that seems sensical but are incorrect. So how do you work to avoid hallucinations, or how the branch ensures the accuracy of the information provided by AI agents? Is there a separate technology? What technology can be used?
Yeah, there is. I've written a whole paper on this, but to kind of summarize, there's different levels uh, of precautions that you could take to make the output that you're getting more responsive and more accurate. The very first level is you learn to communicate with the AI better. You you write a more organized and in-depth prompt, which a lot
Mhm.
of lawyers don't do. A lawyer might say like, write me a contract. What kind of contract, who is it going to, what are some provisions you want in it. How you have to explain yourself, which you
Mhm.
have to do, by the way, to other human beings. You need to explain yourself, so that's important. Beyond prompting, almost every company that does legal AI like LawDroid and CoCounsel and Harvey and many others, are using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, right?
Mhm.
Now, RAG, it's not all the same. There's different ways of organizing it, of structuring it, of having different loops and callbacks to inference models. There's different levels of complexity that you could introduce into RAG. And when you put too much into it, then the downside of it is latency, where it takes too long to get a response. This is the challenge right now, because even using a RAG system, as the Stanford study pointed out, some of the legal AI companies are getting a hallucination rate between, I think, 17% and 33%. So when something's wrong a third of the time, that's not good for a
Mhm.
large law firm. I got some good news, though, and I actually just posted this week about it. I'm continually doing research, of course, on this to find out new and better ways of delivering information to legal companies and law firms, because that's what I do at LawDroid. But there's a recent paper put out by a company called Lamini, Lamini.ai. And one of the co-founders is a professor at Stanford, and she does research on AI, and so this is her company that she does private work through. And so they've come up with a solution where they use what they call a mix of memory experts. So it's an add-on essentially to an open source foundation model like Llama 3, where they have the way to visualize it is like this army of smaller memory experts that they train on certain facts, and it supplements the foundation model. And the only limit to how many facts you could train these memory experts on is the size of the foundation model. So if the model is trained on 15 trillion tokens, you could potentially train it on up to 15 million tokens worth of facts, which is extraordinary. Another thing that's really interesting about that innovation is that there's no limitation on the context window, because up until now, the context window, or like the attention span of the AI, has been a limitation. This eliminates that limitation because all of those facts are burned into the parametric memory of these particular memory experts that are trained. And it's called memory fine-tuning. So that's something to look forward to. Incorporating it into legal research, I think, would be a huge win. To what extent you can incorporate it into legal research and that it would work just as well on legal facts, we have to see. But their paper was claiming that they took enterprise companies from a 50% hallucination rate to 95% accuracy.
It seems quite comfortable even for lawyers.
Yeah. So how that plays out, I'm not quite sure. I'm speaking with that company and hoping to incorporate that within our workflow. But it's promising, and it shows you that this isn't a brick wall. Innovation continues. Companies are working on these problems, and they will solve them.
Okay, so how about ensuring ethical boundaries or confidentiality requirements? We prepared first global report on the state of AI in legal practice, and these ethical and confidentiality were two mostly mentioned problems or challenges. How do you answer on that fears?
It's recurring, right? Like every time we have a new technology, it's the same debate. It's the same thing. Outlook came out and people were debating the same thing.
Yes.
Posting on a listserv, people were, having the same debate.
Cloud services.
Yeah, cloud services. It's always the same. Whenever anything's new, then the fears come out of everything that could go wrong. My answer is to simplify it. All right. All you lawyers out there, just think of how you live and work right now. You're probably sitting in an office just like I am. In your office, you have a file cabinet. That file cabinet, maybe you have a lock on it. Maybe not. Your door right here probably has a lock on it. And so when you leave for the day, you lock it and you go home and you hope that all is well. Now, the rule for the ABA, the American Bar Association, is that you take reasonable precautions to ensure privacy, right, and security. Locking the door is considered to be, by case law, reasonable precaution to ensure privacy. Now, it's not, as lawyers, you're not tasked with making it impossible to get access to private files. You put a lock on the door, maybe you put a lock on your file cabinet. Those are reasonable precautions. It's not making it impossible. Like somebody could break in, like you don't want it to happen, but somebody could break into your office and they could steal the files. That is unfortunate, but sometimes that happens. It's the same idea. My point is that the analogy to taking precautions digitally is the same. You make sure that the vendor you're using has an SSL certificate, that they encrypt data that's being transmitted to them, that they encrypt data that's on their system. Encryption meaning that if someone were to intercept the data and read it, it would appear to be like a jumble of characters and numbers that they would not be able to understand. Now, is it possible that they're smart and sophisticated enough to have a way to break that encryption and reveal what's inside? Yes, it is possible, depending on how much time and money they want to devote to it. But again, reasonable precautions. It doesn't require impossibility.
So this is my next question. How do you predict the future of AI regulations in legal world? For instance, during my last episode, a guest told me that Israeli law requires revealing the use of AI in legal work. What do you think about such the regulations, some other changing world regulations?
So I just read this morning from Judge Scott Schlegel, who's a very progressive, awesome, technology judge in the United States in Louisiana. He was writing about the Fifth Circuit in the United States. Recently, they decided not to go down the road of requiring lawyers to, disclose and or not to use generative AI. The idea being that we already have rules in place to govern that behavior. In the U.S. we have Rule 11, and Rule 11, when you file papers in federal court, it's putting the lawyer in, to be responsible for the factual accuracy of the papers being filed, that they're on the hook, so to speak, for what they file. And if you make somebody responsible for something like that, subject to pain of monetary fines or imprisonment, that person is going to take things seriously, and they're going to be better about reviewing stuff before they file it with the court. And ultimately, that's the right call, is to keep it based on behavior, not on technology. The technology will change, but the behavior is what we're trying to get at. And so I think things the way they are sufficient. This kind of, little wave of requiring AI disclosure is natural because it's a new thing. It also happened with use of the cloud and other things, but it will pass. And then the focus will change back to behavior, which is all along what we're trying to regulate.
Really interesting approach. I fully support it because you don't reveal using computers or some special other type of software. I fully agree with you. Maybe last question. What are some of the future developments or innovation we can expect from LawDroid or AI agents world? How do you envision AI agents evolving the legal sector in the next 5 years?
So in the next 5 years, there's going to be a tremendous amount of change and innovation, more so, I would say, than the last 25 years.
Okay.
We've seen such progress just in the past year and a half. It's been crazy to keep up with everything. LawDroid, our tagline is work smarter with LawDroid, from, work smarter, not harder. And I think essentially over the next year or two, the big gains that can be made within the legal industry are not from the hyper focus that people are having on legal research and hallucination. People are way too distracted, I think, with that. The huge gains, I think, will come from productivity, efficiency, and cost savings that are realized from solving the business of law problems with AI. Administrative work that can be minimized using AI. Paralegal type work that can be minimized using AI. And it's not, again, to eliminate the jobs. But one thing that I've heard from one of my clients is that, and the work that she does is more of a family law application. But when the AI has helped her to minimize staff time on these administrative functions, it's allowed them to be there, present emotionally with the clients. And this applies not only to family law, it could apply within a corporate context too, because business people also get emotional. They also get upset or stressed out about what's going on. And the more that you could be there to communicate with them, guide them through the process, they don't feel like they're left out in the cold, like what's going on, I have no idea, and they're stressed out. The more time you have people available to handle them and to explain things to them, the better. Because that's really what it's about for us, is this human relationship that we're having with people that are in a stressful time, and being there to provide peace of mind, guidance, and expertise. And we can provide more of that if we're doing less of the busy work.
I fully agree. It's been told by many of my previous guests, but I fully agree, and I would repeat it again. So we should spend more time for clients, speaking with them, communicating, and mundane tasks should be done by AI agents, automations. Tom, thank you for sharing your insights, experiences with us today. It's been fascinating to learn about the transformative potential of AI agents in the legal industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love talking about AI, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you once again. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of MondAI BAIgel. Goodbye.